Hello. Hello and good morning, beautiful people of First Unitarian. It is a lovely spring morning, and I can see it on your shining faces, how good it feels to have sunlight and blooming things. Welcome to worship with the community of First Unitarian Church of Omaha. I'm Reverend Shari Woodbury, the congregation's settled minister. Whether you're here in person or joining us on YouTube at some point, I'm very glad that you've decided to plug into this community. We come together each week to worship, which from the Latin means to remember that which is of worth. And so we reground ourselves Sunday after Sunday in our highest values. A special welcome to visitors. This is a congregation of all ages and abilities. It's a community with a rainbow of gender and sexual identities. It's a community with a variety of cultural and class backgrounds. We draw from many sources of inspiration. I'm going to be talking about at least one of them today, and we share common liberal religious values. Whoever you may be, we invite you to bring your whole self into this community. I will also say that you never know what you're going to get when you come here, and this morning will be a little different than next week or than last week, so if you're a new person, come a few times to get a sense of what you might find when you're here. If you're joining us online, I encourage you to create a YouTube account and sign into it when you participate that way. This will let you use the chat for things like joys and concerns, and sometimes, as today, also other ways of participating. For those here in person, every Sunday after the service, we have coffee hour downstairs in the common room, which is the room immediately below the sanctuary here. So there'll be some goodies, some beverages, and lots of friendly faces to greet you and chat a bit. A few announcements. One very, very happy one. For those who know our affiliated community minister, Sarah Voss, she's been working on a book about the math mystic for a long time, and it is now officially published. Woohoo! And we'll put the link, she didn't ask me to do this, but I know some of you are going to want it. We'll put the link in the Joys and Concerns e-blast in case anybody is interested in ordering a copy. Congratulations, Sarah. Let's see. Also, I want to mention that after the service in fellowship or in the common room, our UU the Vote team will have a table where you can do several citizen-y things in keeping with our theme today, although it's a coincidence. You can register to vote. You can also sign the petition in support of the constitutional amendment for Nebraska protecting reproductive rights. And if you want to find out other ways you can get involved, there are friendly people who will be happy to talk with you about that. And now I want to invite forward one of our trustees, Beth Conover, for a special announcement or two.
Good morning. So I have two things to remind you of. As you know, our annual meeting is coming up Sunday, May 5th, and our bylaws say that we need to tell you about it for 3 Sundays in a row. So we're going to start with that. It'll happen Sunday, May 5th at 10:30. It will be here, live in person in the sanctuary. There won't be an interactive Zoom, but you can watch it by YouTube, just the same way as you might normally watch a Sunday service if you watch it virtually. This will take place the place of the normal Sunday service. So be there, be square, be here May 5th. Eligible voting members will adopt an operating budget for the coming year, elect a president, president-elect, members of the board, Right Relations Committee members, nominating committee members, and trustees of the trust fund. So an important thing to do. They will also consider reports from church leaders and celebrate our awards winners. Finally, we'll have a straw poll to guide our General Assembly delegates in their vote regarding Article 2 amendments. May 5th. And then this coming Sunday, April 21st, the board is seeking congregational input on priorities for care of our building and our budget. So the annual meeting doesn't really have enough time and isn't a great place for that kind of thing. We're calling this discernment. So you can join us Sunday, April 21st in coffee hour. So we're taking over the coffee hour downstairs, regular service, but come down afterwards. We'll have snacks. And there will be both a couple presentations and listening circles. So we want to have you hear a bit from us, and then we want to hear from you about your thoughts about this. And then if you are a person who prefers to do this by Zoom, we're going to repeat it the next night, Monday the 22nd at 7 p.m. There was already a Zoom invitation in the Thursday email that went out, and there'll be another one in terms of doing that. So, hoping that you'll join us for both of those, I want to remind you again about the UU the Vote, and if you would like to participate in that fabulous group here from the church, Dave Richardson can tell you more about that. It's a cool thing to do. We've got the registration table today, and we'll also have one April 28th if today doesn't work for you. So, anybody that needs to vote or wants to know more about voter ID, we can help. All right, thank you.
I don't know about you, but I heard April 14 snacks. I'm there. Our church occupies the traditional treaty lands of the Omaha and Otoe, Missouri tribal nations whose sovereignty existed long before the state of Nebraska. We'd also like to express our respect to the Ponca tribe of Nebraska, the Winnebago and the Santee Sioux tribes of Nebraska, and the many others represented in our area. Our hope is that our land acknowledgement is just a beginning as we continue to educate ourselves and support causes, charities, and rights of local indigenous people.
My apologies, this is actually a Nigerian folk song. Test, test, test.
You say on the wall, go
This time I invite forward Dave Richardson to light the flaming chalice. All together, spark of the Spirit, cupped in earth's embrace, light of love, alive in all creation. As we kindle this flame, we rekindle our connection to the sacred path of life. As surely as we belong to the universe, we belong together.
We join here to transcend the isolated self,
To reconnect
to know ourselves to be at home,
here on earth, here under the stars.
linked with each other.
I invite you to rise if that feels good in your body and join in our opening hymn number 163 for the earth forever turning. We come to the time for the story for all ages. It's going to be on the big screen, so if we have young ones here who want to get a better look, you might want to sit in these first couple of pews here behind the musicians.
Hello, everyone. Today we are going to read, a story called The Circles All Around Us. Hi. And this is for all the kids making the world better right where you are. Hope you're making it better. We begin by drawing a circle on the ground along each shoe, which is a safe little place for just one person. Nobody in this circle but you. Right? You see? You could keep that circle closed to everyone but yourself, but that would be like a library with just one book on the shelf. So let's draw a bigger circle for you and your family to share. And now you can see what all can happen in a circle that is full of care, right? Oh, look at the pictures. You got grandparents and aunties and uncles. It becomes a happier circle as more loved ones come to stay. And wouldn't it be even better if all your friends could come and play? Look at all those friends from the playground. So, you stretch and draw your circle even bigger than it's been. Bigger. Think bigger, right? All the people you like to hang out with, play video games with, run around on the playground. Sure. That's right. And now we're going to let a few more people know that they're welcome to come in the circles all around us, everywhere that we all go. There's a difference we can make and a love we all can show. All right, look at this. Yet there are still so many outside of our circles who are different in all they do, though it feels slightly uncomfortable. Hold on. Yes. How many of you know how to say hello in a language that is not English? Can I hear it? Hola. Hola. Guten Tag. Do you know another one? Aloha. Aloha. Anyone else? There's so many on here. You know that one? You want to say aloha? Aloha. Job. Like, look at all these different ones. There's salut, salam, hello. There's so many on there. Bonjour. You know that one too. Ciao. That's Italian. Very good. Look at all those languages. Yes, exactly. Okay. Yeah, see all of these? All right. Yes. Ciao. We draw a bigger circle for them too. We're going to include those people that are different from us that we maybe haven't met yet. It doesn't mean the circle is easy, and it can get harder the more we share. The bigger our circle gets, right? Could get harder, right? Yeah. But that's how we make new friends, right? But wonderful things can happen when love is known and felt everywhere. Just like, oh, that person is bringing friendship donuts. I would love friendship donuts, just so all of you know. Absolutely. Those are the best. As time passes, our eyes open, and we see others we really care for. And that's when we ask ourselves, well, what's this circle really there for? Right? Why do we have a circle if we're letting everyone in the circle? That's interesting. What do you think about that? Friendship donuts, man. That's where it's at. That is going to be a thing from now on. Absolutely. So let us create bigger circles all around us for the rest of our day. And let our caring ripple out in a million little ways. You guys have seen that, right? You plunk a rock in the water and you get circles that ripple out. I'm sure you have. It's very popular. they made splashes. You're right. The circles all around us, everywhere that we all go. And there's a difference that we can make and a love that we all can show, right? We talk about that a lot here, being a welcoming place. We're a welcoming community where new people can always come and become friends, right? Yeah. All right. Oh, look, our circles grow and grow, and we watch them wonder-eyed. Look at all those circles. Do you guys see all those circles around the earth? Yeah. That's so many big circles. Remember, the first circle started with just the love that you have inside. So we start small and we grow big and bigger and spread our love, right? Thank you guys for being such good listeners. Did you want to add anything about our circles? Are we going to work on our circles? All right.
Thank you, Amanda. That was fun. Each week, we practice drawing our circle a little wider through our community offering. Half of the undesignated gifts that are given support a local cause which resonates with Unitarian Universalist values. If you're online or prefer to give with your smartphone, you can use the QR code or links. For this month, our Share the Plate recipient is the National Alliance for Mental Illness, which is a grassroots organization dedicated to education, support, and advocacy with anyone whose life has been touched by mental illness. I'm going to invite Terry Lynn Brewer to come up and share a little bit that she knows about NAMI. And by the way, when the Offbeats start singing during the offertory, this is a song familiar to many of us. Feel free to join in and sing with them if you like. It's number 1020. Whoa, yeah, yeah.
Good morning. Have you ever lost not feeling you are an essential part of not only your life, but the lives of others around you, not waiting for you to freak out? Well, through those years, I have felt that. And yes, the first time I walked into this building, I thought for sure I would place myself into a self-made dark corner. Boy, was I wrong. I was greeted by Jamie Alexander with a handshake of love. Here I found a quite unexpectedly true sanctuary. I want others with lonely hearts to find a place like this church. That's why I contributed to my home church, and my family. This month we share the plate with the organization like NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and continue to. And this year they're having a walk on May 18th, so if anybody's interested, get in contact with me. It is hard to live with mental illness, yet organizations like NAMI, they help those of us living with mental illness, help us each other to transition into society. As with any disability, it is physical. It is not easy for anyone. Yet, without NAMI's help, I don't know if I would have had the courage to come into this space. But I knew this First Unitarian Church of Omaha, is not a physical place. It is truly a beloved community and my home. I keep my spiritual family, our home. It keeps It takes funds to keep her going and the congregation's futures intact. Though I live on limited income, I will support my sanctuary. That is, my future will continue, and others will build their own beloved community future here at First Unitarian Church. Thank you.
Thank you, as always, to the Offbeats for the gifts of music. We come to the time for sharing of joys and concerns. This is an opportunity to let others be uplifted with us when things are going well, and let others surround us with care when they are not going so well. And I think we have a few that were submitted in advance, and Colin will share them with us.
You will have to bear with me today. I'm not feeling my best, feeling a little down, so just bear with me here. Concern from Carol Ramsey. Ian Shanklin had a right CVA stroke on April 5th and has left side paralysis. He is receiving excellent care at Wake Mount Medical Center in Raleigh, North Carolina, and will transfer to rehab when appropriate. He is grateful that he has strong support from his family and friends. Ian would welcome supportive cards and phone calls and texts. His parents' address and his cell phone will be provided in the caring email.
Our healing wishes go out to Ian and his children and everyone affected by this certainly unexpected medical tragedy. And though others may not have spoken, we know there are many other challenges among us, and we hold them in the heart of this community as well. As we hold them in that comfort of community, I invite you to sing with me our centering song this morning, which is number 396. The words are there on the slide. On the wings of this music, I invite you into a time of contemplation. You might want to gently rest your eyes, check your posture, let your breathing be easy. After a common prayer, we'll hold a time of shared silence, which I'll end with the sound of the bell. Spirit of life, we gather together again and again in this sacred space where it is supported to open our vulnerable hearts. Whether there are wonderful things happening in our lives, like inspiring books being published, or hard things happening like a stroke striking someone but 51. We know that we can bring all of it here. And so much is happening in the world around us that may make us feel fragile, tender. All of the conflicts in different parts of the world, the hunger that touches so many children in our own community every day, even if no one marks upon it. And the growing sense of disease and the community of our nation, the circle of our nation. It feels like much is at stake these days. And so we come here with our tender hearts, and we allow them to open in each other's presence as it feels comfortable to do. And we witness the beauty and the strength that is there in each other as we bloom together. May it be so. Amen. A time for your own private meditation or prayer. Delegation shares this morning's readings. The words come from Don Alexander, author with Ariane Conrad of Citizens, Why the Key to Fixing Everything is All of Us.
Good morning. Seem to have moved it out of place. Okay.
Temporary fix for this?
Oh, I put it here.
Just never know what you're going to get when you volunteer on Sunday morning. All right, thank you, Della. There we go.
Thank you. This is from a work, Why the Keys to Fixing Everything is in All of Us. My aim in Citizens is to open up a new way of understanding ourselves and the intensity, challenging time that we live in. I want to equip us to see and step into the possibility in this moment, not the threat. I truly believe we can find a way for all of us to thrive. And seeing one another as the citizens we are is at the starting point. Today, we are living deep inside the consumer story, a foundational story of humans as inherently self-interested and competitive. This story has shaped not just our individual behavior, but organizational design, economic theory, the role of government, morality, all of our culture and society. But this is not an inevitable and inescapable as it feels. For stories do change. Indeed, the consumer story has been in place for less than a century. Before this, we lived inside the subject story, as in the subject of kings, which lasted centuries, casting the majority of us as infant-like and dependent, with just a superior few capable of deciding and leading. And now the consumer story is failing. The subject story is resurgent. But at the same time, a new story is evolving. The citizen story is taking shape across the world and in every aspect of society. In the citizen story, we see ourselves as creative, capable, caring creatures we are. We realize that all of us are smarter than any of us. We get involved. Seeing and stepping into the citizen story, we reshape the way politics is practiced. It will revitalize our communities. It will transform the way organizations across the sectors are structured and the way we engage in all sides with employees, customers, suppliers, and communities. When our institutions see people as citizens rather than consumers and treat us as such, everything changes. By embracing, enacting, and fortifying the citizen story, we will be able to face the challenges of economic insecurity, climate crisis, public health threats, and political polarization. Together, we will be able to build a future together. And we might just be able to have a lot of fun doing it. Thank you.
What's the circle really there for? So asked Brad Montague, author of the children's storybook we heard earlier. I think it's a great question. What's the circle really there for? And I like his answer. The circle is at so many levels, starting with me and the love in my heart, and you and the love in your heart, and then expanding to include more and more people in life with whom our lives are intertwined. The author acknowledges it can get harder the more we share, the more people are brought into the circle and taken into consideration. But the pictures showed us how everyone benefits, people thriving together, the natural world too, as we grow the circle. And in our grown-up reading, we heard 3 stories in one: the subject story, the consumer story, and the citizen story, as described by Alexander and Conrad. I'd like to explore these 3 models at 3 different scales today. The scale of the earth, or ecological community, the scale of a country, or political community, and the human scale of the sort of group belonging where people can know each other face to face. Let's say a congregation. In case this sounds a little much to keep track of, all these scales and models, here's a little grid. We've got a set of tic-tac-toe squares to flesh out today. What would be inside each of those squares? So we'll start with the middle column, the nation or tribe, say the largest political body to which a person belongs. That's a nation state for most people in our day, but a tribe for perhaps all of us and our ancestors if you trace back far enough. This face may look familiar if you've seen the musical Hamilton. I understand it was inspired by the actor who played King George. So we'll let King George of England represent the royal position, despite his lack of ermine coat and scepter here. He's the king. Everyone else, from the lowliest peasant to the royal advisor, is his subject. His job is to take care of everyone else with his henchmen and all of his experts. And this model doesn't offer much freedom, and I doubt too many peasants are able to change their station. But a regular person doesn't have to make many decisions in this scenario, so you might look at that as a plus. Just let this guy take care of everything. He's got all the resources to do it. And I'm afraid this option may look appealing to people in many nominally democratic countries today. People who have lost faith in democracy and who just want someone strong and confident and commanding to fix things for them. onto the middle square. What does the consumer model look like, where it comes into play for a human political group? This story says that by all pursuing our individual interests and competing with each other, we'll produce a greater good. It sounds a little bit like magical thinking to me, but okay. This model emphasizes economic exchange with the logic of the market, interpenetrating all other areas of society and culture, including governance. I noticed that John Alexander, whose model we're talking about today, is British, so he wasn't looking at these models in terms of how they played out here on this side of the pond. But I think it's fair to say that despite the high-minded rhetoric of the beginnings of our nation, our conception of democracy has from the beginning still been closely wed to the consumer story, with Alexander Hamilton as perhaps the poster boy for pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. Instead of the dueling dukes and political marriages of the subject state, in the consumer state we get less rules, more access and opportunity, at least in the sunniest scenarios, but we also get money warping our system all over the place. Lobbyists vie for influence, even writing model legislation to hand to legislators, which sometimes don't get read that carefully, I understand, before they may go to the floor. Individuals with lots of money can pay to play, too. Their wealth can buy supposedly free speech. Some people get more free speech than others. In the history of the US, one relatively recent flashpoint in the consumer model of government was the Supreme Court's decision in 2010. Anybody remember the name of this landmark ruling? Citizens United. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. The Brennan Center for Justice described Citizens United as a controversial decision that reversed century-old campaign finance restrictions and enabled corporations and other outside groups to spend unlimited funds on elections. The issue, as the Brennan Center underscores, is that, quote, while wealthy donors, corporations, and special interest groups have long had an outsized influence in our elections, that sway has dramatically expanded since the Citizens United decision. Justice John Paul Stevens, who wrote the dissenting opinion in that case, stated, "A democracy cannot function effectively when its constituent members believe laws are being bought and sold." Meanwhile, super PACs or political action committees and dark money, which you don't know where it came from, have increased massively since that decision in 2010, further expanding the influence of wealthy donors, special interest groups, and big companies. And we come to the citizen story of the nation or tribe. Alexander and Conrad call this a new story, an emerging story. Maybe I'm just a little too steeped in the mythology of America, but I like to think it's not quite so new of a story in this country. And actually, democracy as we know it was deeply influenced by indigenous cultures, particularly of the eastern Great Lakes region. And here I'm going back to a 2021 volume, The Dawn of Everything by David Graeber and David Wingro. Also, it wasn't just indigenous people here. It appears that humans all over the globe have been experimenting since the beginning with a great variety of political forms, again, per Graeber and Wingro. And some of those have been called democratic. So this whole democracy thing, it isn't that new. It didn't start in Greece. It's been around lots of times all over the place. Be that as it may, let's accept the premise that the citizen model is struggling to re-emerge here after a century of ascendance by the consumer story. Alexander said, "When our institutions see people as citizens rather than consumers and treat them as such, everything changes." I want to suggest that the causal arrow can actually go in the other direction. When we see ourselves as citizens rather than consumers. And when we act the part, we can fundamentally change our institutions. At least we can shape them. We can make them work better for everyone in time. And this photo is from a protest in Omaha a few years ago, a rally when the rumbling first started coming that reproductive rights were in danger in Nebraska. And a bunch of us from the church got together and made posters and went to the rally, and we were all still wearing our masks even outside right now, which wasn't that long ago, although it feels like a really long time ago to me now. But yes, we are creative, capable, caring creatures with abilities that the consumer story simply has not tapped. How would this happen in the consumer story? Those abilities don't fit that story's definition of who we are. Okay, so let's step back and look at what we've got here in the nation tribe column. We've got royal red, green Franklins, and the t-shirt green of abortion rights are human rights. I see Dave's got his green t-shirt on today too. I do think Alexander is onto something, including for this US context, that there's disagreement and even confusion about which model we should bring to life in our nation. Do we want the subject story, or the consumer story, or the citizen story to be our guiding light? For some people, it's always the economy. It's the economy, stupid, if you remember the quote. Voting based on narrow personal economic interests looks like classical consumer story behavior to me. And that goes for whether you're a blue-collar union member or born with a silver spoon in your mouth and want to keep passing that spoon on. What I don't remember recognizing in my lifetime until more recent election cycles is significant groups of voters open to the subject story with little pretense of democracy necessary. If a kingly, strong man president can get the job done, however he can get the job done. Rising authoritarianism in many countries suggests that we are not alone in this potential backsliding toward the subject story. I know many here within the sound of my voice are doing your darndest to champion the citizen model. And I want to lift up again that if you have moved or you're not sure of your voter status or you have questions about voter ID, you can stop down to the You Vote the table after the service today and talk with some friendly folks who can answer many of those questions and help you register to vote and so on. And I expect they'll be very happy to involve more people in their work as they ramp up Get Out the Vote efforts this fall too. I'm spending more time on the nation-state part of this little diagram than I will the other parts. It feels so pressing right now. And before we move to the Earth column, I want to mention a particular policy initiative where rising authoritarianism seems to be exactly the aim. Have you heard of Project 2025? I just heard about it a few months ago, and it gives me chills. I haven't read the whole thing, it's like 900 pages long, but I got the gist. Its proponents are ready to turn us back into something more like an autocracy. The Heritage Foundation, a think tank, led the development of this plan with over 100 partners, so it's a sprawling collaboration of people. And what's in it? Well, the plan calls for implementing what they call the unitary executive theory upon inauguration of the next president, if their candidate wins. This would give the president absolute powers over the executive branch of government. And a bunch of other goodies for this coalition, which includes Christian nationalists as well as many former Trump administration officials. So this is a pretty extreme crowd of folks. I don't know if you'll actually be able to see this. I got a little carried away with the slides this week, but some sample headlines. It touches on not only the authoritarian aspect that, it's kind of moving a little bit more in the direction of dictator here, Also, overturning marriage rights for GLBTQ people and other rights for queer people, further rollbacks around reproductive justice, really running away from trying to do anything about climate change, and a grab bag of other extreme measures. Now, I lift this up not to advocate for any political party or candidate in upcoming elections. Our congregation includes people from a variety of parties, and we each follow our own consciences at the ballot box, which is as it should be. I bring this up because the agenda of this particular coalition is shockingly extreme. It's unprecedented and bold in its aims to reshape the presidency into something more like a dictatorship. The sweeping plan not only goes against the longstanding Unitarian Universalist valuing of the democratic process, something I thought was so basic to our nation, it would also roll back progress on some of those issues that I mentioned, GLBT rights, climate change, reproductive rights. The last tidbit I'll share here further to illustrate what this project is about, not only in its aims, but also in its own funding. One NBC piece from last fall stated, quote, "Nearly half of the project's collaborating organizations have received dark money contributions from a network of fundraising groups linked to Leonard Leo, a major conservative donor and key figure in guiding the selection of Trump's federal judge nominees." It's a tangled web. Nothing here sounds like the citizen's story to me. And again, you can see the Vote team's table in the common room if you want to connect. Okay, let's shake all that off, all that yucky authoritarian stuff. I don't know about you, but it gives me the willies. In fact, let's, if you like, we can sing one more time here just to wash it out of our minds. Okay, like I said, every Sunday is different. I don't think I've ever done one like this before, so onward. I feel like I'm hosting a little bit of a game show. Our next square is the subject story for Earth. And I wonder if the subject story for nature might be something like this. Nature is our mother. We are her children. She takes care of us. We're really dependent on her, aren't we? It seems to me there's more love in the Mother Nature story as subject than the king subject story. And I want to bring in here something else happening in our tradition right now. Consider the proposed value of interdependence and the new expression of UU values that will be voted on at our National General Assembly this June. The first part, which is shown here, seems very much to reflect this fundamental relationship of dependence on nature. We honor the interdependent web of all existence. With reverence for the great web of life and with humility, we acknowledge our place in it. Even if we opt to live from another story, I think we could keep this foundation of our relationship with the earth and realizing our dependence. What about the intersection of the consumer story with the earth relationship? Perhaps this is a story that dominates when people view the land as something to conquer instead of something to belong to. And particularly in a period of colonial expansion and resource extraction, so from the beginnings of the United States ongoing today, The consumer story says we relate to the land as something to commodify, to buy and sell and trade, to use for our own enrichment. Land is to own and squeeze as much productivity from as you can, at least in the short run. And animals too, why not factory farm? Sometimes fancy words hide what's really happening here. Privatizing the commons with legal tools, externalizing costs onto the land and future generations. When the state gets involved, exerting eminent domain. Have you heard the saying, property is 9/10 of the law? Well, that makes sense in a country where the earth story is intersecting with the consumer story. Okay, kind of want to shake that off too. Okay, that brings us to the Earth Citizen box. In our country, consciousness of this relationship, the potential and need for a mutual relationship with the earth, has been growing at least since that first Earthrise, and the environmental consciousness of over half a century ago, leading to the establishment of the first Earth Day, which we'll more properly celebrate next week. And here the rest of the definition of the proposed interdependence value seems apt. It says, we covenant to protect Earth and all beings from exploitation. We will create and nurture sustainable relationships of care and respect, mutuality, and justice. We will work to repair harm and damaged relationships. So a preponderance of settlers finally began to realize that we can't just take, and treat the earth like a trash can or a commodity, something infinite and disposable. Interestingly, this definition speaks to a relationship of mutuality and care with the earth, but it doesn't stop with the earth. It has implications for our relationships with one another, too. I mean, peoples are attached to the lands that they live on, and we have our relationships with one another as well. This last part about repairing harm in relationships seems to me to be especially a long time in coming, to be articulated in our formal expressions of who we are as Unitarian Universalists. To me, if this passes, it'll help catch up our official aspirations with the practices we've increasingly been trying to become skillful in for a couple of decades now. Right relationship with each other, tending and mending relationships among individuals, between groups of people, with Gaia. All right. That's the whole thing. Ready for the, I've gotten behind here. Ready for the church column. Oops, I gave it away. Church as subject. Pretend you didn't see. What might that look like? You can write it in the chat if you're online, or call out. What would church as subject look like in the subject story? Hierarchical. Yeah. The Pope, okay, there he is. And the Christian tradition didn't actually start out in the subject mode right away. Part of what was radical about the early Christians in their political context, with tribes and empires all over the place, led by strong men, was that the early Christian communities actually were more egalitarian. But of course, for many centuries now, we humans have inherited a church of subjects, led by a hierarchy, very much modeled on kings and so on. The Pope there is just one, perhaps the most recognizable example. But I think in many fundamentalist branches of Christianity, of Protestantism, you'll also find religious figures who are more like mini kings of their realms. Their realm may be just the one church that they lead. And they may have power in a formal way, or it may just be cultural, deferential. People just expect it to be the preacher makes the decisions. Anybody been involved in a church like that before? Yeah, so there's lots of subject churches out there. And I don't know that you congregations are immune to ever having any of that happen, but There's also what you just heard. It doesn't put the same burden of leadership on a bunch of people, staff members, board members, voting members, to do it that way. So, you get the right person in the job and hope they use their power wisely. Just like a benevolent dictator can be great, I suppose a benevolent, Pope-type figure or whatever could be great too. Okay, let's go on to our next mystery box, the consumer story, where the consumer story meets the church. What's some language you might hear if you're operating from this story, or the culture you're in is operating from this story? Any thoughts? Mega churches. Crystal cathedrals, perhaps? Yeah. How about church shopping? That's the phrase that kept coming to my mind. Or church hopping, some call it. Maybe personal preferences. Maybe looking for a good value economically, even. Now, I don't want to oversimplify this. If you find yourself in a religious community that is overly controlling, culty even, well, I would sure go look elsewhere myself. If the community isn't trying to grow and doesn't really want you to either, or you have kids and they clearly don't care about kids and families from how they use their resources, or you witness systematic hypocrisy and judgment that just feels too deep to be worked through, well, let's just say there are legitimate reasons to look for a community where you can grow and serve and thrive, and where your presence will also be a welcome one in the community. So I'm not making a blanket statement about choosing carefully where you first get involved, or considering a change sometimes if certain kinds of things happen. But I do think that here in the US, where every product and service and experience you could hope for is offered through the marketplace, I do think we might have gone a little too far in commodifying spirituality, turning it into something that's just about me and my needs, preferences. That's the risk. Forgetting about the interdependence of the community with its mutual give and take and the depth that can come from real commitment over time. Can I get an amen? All right. A consumer mindset leaves you with patterns like, when a conflict erupts between several people, someone just quits the church rather than get into it. It doesn't seem worth it to them to try to spend the time and energy to repair the relationship. Happily, we do now have a Right Relations Committee with helpful and skillful people, which is a wonderful, more recent resource. Or it leaves you with patterns like, people might drift away from a congregation they were once part of, but they still want to pop in and participate sometimes and maybe even vote on things, but they're not sure if they really want to bother with the pledge. Not what they could pledge anyway. Now, there are lots of reasons people pledge as they do, so again, please don't hear this as a broad brush statement. I'm just saying that lackluster pledging can be a reflection of a consumer attitude rather than the attitude of a full community member who belongs and has ownership and investment. All right, our last box. Can I get a drum roll? Behind door number 9 is the citizen model applied to spirituality at our church. And I think in many ways, this is the way Unitarians and Universalists and Unitarian Universalists have been trying to do church for as long as there have been UUs. At least we've been trying to move in this direction. And we're not the only ones, but I'm most interested in what we choose to do. Citizenship is about participation. We're all in this together. It's for our mutual upliftment and enrichment. Sometimes we give, sometimes we receive. It's the circle of life in church, baby. Okay, last chance now to throw out any examples that come to mind for you. How might the citizen story show up at church? What's that? Town hall meetings. Good one, Mr. President. Patience and relationships. Interesting, Terry Lynn. Community nights. Yeah. Voting. Coffee hour. Coffee, coffee, coffee. Volunteers. Oh, we love our volunteers. We couldn't do it without you. So we could list so many things here. You know, congregational polity was the answer I was waiting to give someone his gold star for, but I'll say it. Strong shared leadership. You get the idea. To me, the citizen model is well summed up in 2 words: the common good. In our country, with our planet, and in our church, we work together for the common good, because that is what the circle is really there for. We have a lot of work to do this year, friends, in the world. Let's keep coming together to refresh our spirits and remind ourselves that we're not alone. And let us continue to live into the promise of citizenship for church, for nation, and for earth. May it be so. Amen. Our closing hymn is number 128, For All That Is Our Life. You can rise if you like. Let us continue to grow as citizens of our communities, our nation, and our world. Let us work to build the common good for ourselves and for the generations to come. May it be so.